If the car hadn't hit the fire hydrant directly under my bedroom window, I might have rolled over and gone back to sleep. Instead, I woke to the sound of metal screaming. The impact rattled my little row house, sending a framed print crashing to the floor. For a second, I just lay there in the dark, pulse pounding, waiting for my ICU brain to decide if this was real or just another nightmare about alarms and flatlines. Then someone leaned on a horn and didn't let go. I threw off the covers and stumbled to the window, bare feet slapping against cold hardwood. Outside, the streetlights spilled weak orange over Morales Street, turning wet asphalt into a slick mirror. A car, a low, dark shape that shone even under the grime, had plowed head-on into the hydrant across the street. Water geysered up around the crumpled hood, spraying the windshield, glittering in the light like diamonds and blood. For a stupid second, I thought it was my neighbor's beat-up Honda. Then I saw the gleam of the rims, the sleek lines under the wreckage, the way the front grille still managed to look expensive even half-detached. This was not a Honda. The horn finally cut off in a wheezing stutter. Steam hissed from under the buckled hood. Somewhere, a dog barked and then went silent. Nobody else came out. Welcome to Morales Street at 2:07 in the morning, where people pretended not to notice anything that might attract attention. My phone said I'd been asleep for 53 minutes. I'd gotten home from a 12-hour shift at County General just after midnight, shoes soaked, scrubs clinging to my skin, brain full of other people's emergencies. Apparently, I wasn't done with them. Of course, I muttered, grabbing the first hoodie I could reach from the chair and shoving it over my t-shirt. Because why would the universe let me rest like a normal nurse? I grabbed the small trauma kit I kept by the front door, habit, not paranoia, and bolted down the narrow stairs, heart hammering. The air outside slapped me awake. Cold, wet, sharp with the metallic tang of ruptured hydrant and hot engine. The car sat angled across the intersection, nose jammed into twisted metal and concrete. The airbags had blown, ghostly balloons filling the front seat. The driver's side door was jammed against a bent street sign, the glass spiderwebbed but not shattered. I jogged closer, my breath puffing white. "Hey!" I called, loud enough that if any of my neighbors were awake and pretending not to be, they'd know someone was handling it. "Are you okay? Can you hear me?" No answer. The windshield was a chaotic collage of reflections, streetlights, spray, my own pale face. I stepped onto the wet curb and leaned in, cupping my hands around my eyes to block the glare. He was slumped against the deployed airbag, head turned slightly toward me. Dark hair plastered to his forehead, a thin line of blood trailing from his temple down the side of his face. His eyes were closed, lashes absurdly long against skin that had gone the wrong kind of pale. He looked young enough that his mother would still call him my boy. Old enough that you'd think he'd know better than to drive this fast on our street. "Hey!" I rapped my knuckles against the cracked glass. "Sir? Can you hear me?" His chest moved. Too shallow. Too slow. Adrenaline surged, clean and cold, through my veins. The same rush I got when a trauma bay curtain snapped back to reveal a mess of flesh and blood and two bright eyes. Focus, June. Airway. Breathing. Circulation. I circled to the passenger side. This door hung crooked, the frame buckled, but it gave when I yanked on the handle, groaning in protest. The interior smelled like burned rubber and expensive cologne. Leather seats. Digital dashboard still blinking angrily. A crack zigzagged across the passenger side airbag, like someone had hit it from the outside. Not just a crash, then. Something else. Something harder. I shoved the thought aside and leaned over the center console. Up close, he didn't look like anybody I knew from Morales Street. His shirt, soaked dark on one side, had the kind of cut that screamed custom, not clearance rack. A heavy watch flashed on his wrist, catching the strobe of the hazard lights. A faint pattern inked the side of his throat, disappearing under his collar. When my knee brushed the floor mat, my thigh hit something cold and solid. I glanced down. A gun lay half-hidden under the driver's seat. Matte black. Familiar enough from too many GSW admissions that I knew it wasn't some plastic toy. "Fantastic," I whispered. because this needed to be more complicated. I forced my gaze back up. A small, dark blossom stained the white of the driver's airbag. Another stain, larger, wetter, spread along his left side, just below the ribs. Seatbelt on. Airbags deployed. Head laceration. Possible internal bleed. Possible bullet wound. Hey. I reached across and brushed my fingers against his jaw, ignoring the expensive stubble and the sharp cut of his cheekbones. Can you open your eyes for me? His skin was warm and clammy. His pulse, when I found it at his neck, beat strong but sluggish. Somewhere down the block, a curtain scraped shut. I should have called 911 first.
That was what protocol said.
ABC, then C-call. My hand went to my pocket, fingers shaking as I pulled out my phone. No service. The little bar in the corner mocked me.
0.
The damn router in my house had been acting up for weeks. Morales Street's cell tower coverage was a joke. Inside, Wi-Fi made up the difference. Out here, at the intersection of bad luck and neglected infrastructure, the signal dropped to nothing. I swallowed a curse and glanced at the smashed-in front of the car. Steam hissed louder. The hydrant spray arced in a ragged fountain, soaking everything. If the engine caught, the whole thing could go up. With him still inside. I am not losing you because the city can't be bothered to update the towers, I snapped, more to the night than to him. Okay, we're doing this the hard way. I grabbed the trauma shears from my kit, shoved the passenger airbag aside, and crawled as far across as I could. The driver's side seat belt had locked tight. I wedged my shoulder against the console and cut through it, centimeter by stubborn centimeter. The blade bit into fabric, my hand cramping. Sorry, I muttered as the strap snapped and his body slumped sideways. Consent later, rescue now. I hooked my arms under his, braced my feet, and pulled.
He was solid.
Taller than me by a lot, broader through the shoulders. Deadweight had never felt so literal. Come on, I grunted. Help me out a little here. To my surprise, his fingers twitched against my thigh, as if his body had heard me even if his brain hadn't. The extra flex was enough. I'm under the hood, sharper this time. A flicker of orange in the shattered grille.
Shit.
I yanked his arm across my shoulders, tucked my hip under his, and hauled. My ked little front steps. The porch light flickered as if protesting. Mied, jamming my shoulder against the wood. Pick a different time to be dramatic. The deadbolt finally gave. We spilled inside in a wet, graceless heap. I got the door kicked shut with my heel and manhandled him onto my sagging couch, my lungs burning. Up close, in the relative glow of my crooked floor lamp, he looked even more out of place. Like someone had cut a model out of a luxury watch ad and pasted him into my thrift store living room. His shirt clung to his torso, the dark stain at his side spreading. I peeled my hoodie off, tossed it aside, and snapped open my kit again.
Gloves. Gauze.
Coated scissors. Okay, I muttered, more to keep myself from spinning out than anything. I can do chest tubes at 3 in the morning on someone who tried to outrun a train. I can do this. I cut his shirt up the middle. Hard muscle. Scattered scars. One fresh hole edged with black, low on his left flank. The entry wound was small. The exit, if there was one, would be worse. I pressed gauze against it. He flinched, a low sound rumbling from his chest. Hey. I leaned over him, my ponytail falling forward. You with me? His eyes fluttered. For a moment they were just hazel. Unfocused.
Glassy.
Then, in a heartbeat, they weren't. They sharpened. Locked on my face. Took me in like a threat assessment and something else. His hand shot up, fingers clamping around my wrist in a grip that was far too strong for someone who'd just been unconscious in a bleeding wreck. I sucked in a breath. Don't move, he rasped, voice low and rough, like it had been dragged over gravel. An accent threaded through it, faint, old country polished by years in the city. I'm trying to stop you from bleeding out on my couch. I shot back, because fear always came out of me sideways as sarcasm. So, maybe let me move a little. His hold tightened. Not enough to hurt. Enough to make it very clear he could. His pupils blew wide, swallowing the hazel. When he spoke again, the words slid under my skin like a knife made of silk. "Now you can't leave," he whispered. In that instant, with his blood on my hands and his gun still on my floor, I knew three things with absolute clarity. He was dangerous. He was not going to the hospital. And whoever had been in that slow-rolling SUV outside was going to come looking for him. His grip was iron around my wrist, hot and unyielding, like I was just another thing he owned. "Let go," I said, trying to keep my voice level. "You're bleeding on literally everything I own, and if I don't put pressure on that wound, you're going to decorate my floor with the rest of your insides." One corner of his mouth twitched, like pain amused him. "You call anyone," he rasped. "You die with me." My spine went cold. "I was going to call an ambulance," I shot back. "That's what normal people do when someone crashes outside their house." His fingers tightened for a heartbeat, then eased, but he didn't let go. "I am not," he said slowly, "normal people." No kidding. Up close, his eyes were wrong for Morales Street, gold-ringed in green, clear despite the pain, scanning me, my shabby living room, every exit. His gaze snagged on the curtain, the door, the trauma kit on my coffee table. "Where's your phone?" he asked. Silence was an answer. His jaw clenched. "I saw it," he ground out. "In your hand. Where is it now?" "In my pocket." I lied automatically. His gaze dropped to the couch cushion where my phone, traitorous and screen down, peeked out from under my hoodie. He exhaled through his nose. "Don't use it," he ordered. "Not yet." "Or what?" I demanded. "You'll bleed on me harder?" His expression didn't change, but the air between us did. "Or the people who did this," he said, voice low, "will hear that call before the ambulance does.
And they will finish the job.
House included." Something in his tone told me he wasn't guessing. A fresh hiss from the engine outside punctuated his words. The faintest whiff of smoke threaded through the cracked window. I swallowed hard. "So, your plan is what exactly? Hide and bleed out quietly? That doesn't work in the ICU either." "My plan," he said, "is to stay alive until my people get here." "Your people." The words tasted like gang labels and whispered news reports. "Let me guess, they're the ones in the black SUV who slowed down to admire your crash?" "Those were not my people." His lip curled. "Those were the ones who put a hole in me." Gunshot. SUV. "The way he'd said you die with me." "What did you do?" I whispered, before I could stop myself. "Who are you?" His eyes cut back to mine, sharp enough to make me wish I could snatch the question back out of the air.
"For now," he said.
"I'm the man whose blood is on your hands." Literally. My gloves were already tacky with it. "Either help me," he went on, "or open the door and scream for them. Those are your choices, June." Hearing my name in his mouth sucked the air out of my lungs. "I never told you." "Monogram on your badge," he said, nodding toward the county general fleece I'd thrown over a chair. "June Herrera. Registered nurse. Night shift." He'd registered that, half-conscious in a crashing car.
"Great."
"That's unsettling," I muttered, but my hands were already moving, years of training stronger than fear. I peeled back the sodden gauze. Blood welled, slower than before, but still too fast for comfort. The entry wound was small and angry. No exit on his back that I could feel, which meant the bullet was still inside, bouncing around in places I couldn't see. "You need a trauma surgeon," I said. "Not a half-awake nurse in a rental house with no cell service." "I need to not be in a hospital where every cop in the city can take photos of me for their bosses," he countered. "That's not how HIPAA works," I snapped. "That's exactly how my life works," he said. Outside, a low hum cut through the fading wail of his dying engine. Tires on wet asphalt. Not sirens. Not neighbors' cars. Both our heads turned toward the window. The hum grew, then split, two engines moving in tandem. Lights swept across my curtains. The shadows of tall vehicles slid over my walls. He relaxed, just a fraction. "My people," he said. I didn't know if that made me feel better or worse. "Stay away from the window," he added. "And whatever happens, you did not call them." I didn't call anyone, I said. I couldn't. He stared at me like he didn't quite believe me. Then he let go of my wrist. Press there, he ordered, catching my hand and dragging it back to his side. Hard. Don't stop until I say. Bossy, bleeding, and infuriating. Fantastic. I leaned my weight into the gauze, feeling the heat of his skin through the latex. His breath hitched, but he didn't make a sound. Outside, doors thumped. Low voices traded quick, harsh syllables in a language my abuela would have understood better than me. A firm knock rattled my front door. Signore, a man called, muffled through the wood. Avka. The body on my couch went very still. Back door, he called, voice stronger, edged with authority. Use the key. One at a time. Keys? To my house. The thought had barely formed when I heard the jingle of metal at the rear. My kitchen door, always sticky, always needing a hip check, opened with suspicious ease. I turned just as a man filled the doorway from the kitchen to the living room. He was big, broad-shouldered under a dark coat, hair cropped close, eyes sweeping the room and cataloging every thread in half a second. A gun rode comfortably at his hip, hand near it but not on it. His gaze landed on the man on my couch. Capo, he said, relief and anger braided into the single word. Che diavolo. English, Rafe. The man under my hands cut in. We have a guest.
Capo. Boss.
Rafe's eyes flicked to me, ticking over hoodie, messy braid, blood-stained gloves. Something ugly and resigned flashed there. Great, he muttered. A civilian. I was a sleeping civilian, I said, until he redecorated my evening. Rafe ignored me and moved closer, peeling back the edge of the blood-soaked gauze with practiced fingers. Clean through, he asked. Can't tell, I said. There's no exit. He needs imaging. No hospitals, my patient repeated, iron in his voice. Rafe shot him a look. You're not at the club, Dario. You don't give orders with a hole in your side.
Dario.
The name hit some half-forgotten place in my brain where news reports lived. Late-night murmurs in the nurse's lounge. The Romano family. Dario Romano, youngest son. Cold eyes, colder ledger. I stared. You're careful, June, he said softly, without looking at me. Names have gravity. Rafe swore under his breath. You told her your name? I crashed into her street, Dario said. She pulled me out of the car before it exploded. I owe her more than a fake one. Oh, Rafe echoed, like it was the worst possible word. Another man slipped in from the kitchen, taller, leaner, with dark hair pulled into a short tie. His gaze swept my modest living room, the broken print on the floor, the damp footprints on the wood. Boss, he said. Street's clear. The other car bailed after the crash. No sign of them circling back yet, but we can't stay.
We aren't, Dario said.
Get the truck. We move in 5. Truck. I repeated. Move who in 5? My heart was beating too fast. My hands stayed where they were, pressing down on his wound because taking them away felt like signing his death certificate. Dario finally looked at me fully. Close up, with his color back and his eyes clear, he was even more dangerous. Not just because of the gunshot and the men and the word capo hanging in the air like a loaded weapon, because he looked at me like I was a variable he planned to control. You, he said, are coming with me. Every muscle in my body locked. The hell I am, I snapped. This is my house. My street. I dragged your stubborn mobster ass out of a ticking fireball. I've done my part. You can go bleed somewhere else now. Rafe's head whipped toward me. Mobster, he repeated, half horrified, half impressed. Dario's mouth curved, just a little. She's direct. She's a liability, the other man said. She saw your face. She heard your name. If the Albanians grabbed her. Albanians. I choked. What is happening right now? Exactly why she isn't staying here, Dario cut in. The softness vanished from his tone, leaving something cold and absolute. They saw where I went down. They'll come back to sweep the scene. If they find you, they'll assume you pulled me out. They'll ask questions you don't have answers to, and they won't care. Heat drained from my limbs. leaving a cold, shaky void. I can leave, I said. I can go to my sister's. To a motel. Anywhere but. They will follow your phone, he said. They will follow your car, your cards, anyone you've ever emergency contacted. You are on their map now. I hated that it made sense. Hated that the reasonable part of my brain was already sketching out the risks and seeing nothing but red. So your solution, I said slowly, is to kidnap me. Protect you, he corrected. Tomato, I shot back. He pushed himself upright with a grimace, ignoring both my hissed protest and Rafe's muttered curse, until he was sitting on my couch like a king on a shabby throne. Even bleeding, he radiated command. He reached for my wrist again. This time, when his fingers closed around it, his grip was firm, but not painful. You stepped into my world when you dragged me into this house, June, he said quietly. You can't step halfway back out.
It doesn't work like that.
My pulse pounded against his thumb. I didn't step into anything, I whispered. You crashed into me. A ghost of a smile touched his mouth. Semantics. Headlights flared outside. Heavy footsteps pounded up the back steps. Someone shouted something I couldn't catch. Rafe moved to the window, gun already in his hand. Time's up, he said. We've got 30 seconds before we're not the only ones on this street. Dario's hand tightened on mine. Pack a bag, he said. You're not sleeping here again. And with those 6 words, my life narrowed to a single terrifying, impossible choice. Walk out my front door with a Mafia boss. I'm not proud of the first thing I did. I looked at my bookshelf. Not the important documents, not my wallet or car keys. My eyes went straight to the crooked little shelf above the TV, to the dog-eared paperback my dad had given me when I graduated nursing school, the one with coffee stains on the cover. You have 30 seconds, Dario said. I flinched, dragged my gaze back to him. 30 seconds isn't enough to decide to burn down my life, I snapped. His eyes held mine, steady despite the pain. You decided when you pulled me out of that car, he said. Now you're choosing how you survive it. Rafe swore softly at the window. Headlights, he muttered. Not ours. The taller man, Luca, I thought Dario had called him, shifted, gun out, body angled toward the kitchen. My choices compressed to a pinpoint. If I go with you, I said, what happens to my house? Best case.
Dario said.
They toss it. Worst, it becomes your coffin. Move, June. I yanked my old duffel from the hall closet and threw it open on the floor.
Scrubs.
2 pairs of jeans. Underwear. Shoes. Toothbrush.
Charger.
My hands moved on their own, but my brain snagged on stupid things. The plant on the windowsill, I kept forgetting to water. The chipped mug with the County General logo. The photo of my parents and me at Coney Island, edges curled, my father's arm around my shoulders, my mother's eyes laughing. I snatched the photo, shoved it between shirts. June. Dario's voice again, closer now. Time. I grabbed the book Dad had given me on pure reflex and crammed it into the bag. Then I zipped it with a jerk and slung it over my shoulder. This is insane, I muttered. I don't even know you. That's the safest way to know me, he said. Luca, back door. Rafe, you take point. I'll be right behind you. You're not walking anywhere, I said because apparently my mouth was allergic to self-preservation. You stand up too fast and you'll pass out all over my hardwood. Then stop making me talk, he shot back, but there was a flash of something almost like humor in his eyes. He pushed himself upright anyway, white-knuckling the arm of the couch. Rafe moved in on his other side without being asked, sliding under his arm, taking some of his weight. For a second I saw it. The wince he didn't quite swallow, the way his jaw clenched against a wave of pain. Not untouchable, just stubborn. Outside, an engine revved closer. Tires hissed on wet pavement. Go, Dario gritted.
Now.
We threaded through my tiny kitchen, past the sink where I'd left dishes soaking in soapy water. Luca eased the back door open a crack, peered out, then jerked his chin. All clear. He stepped through first, gun low and ready. Cold slapped my bare ankles as I followed. The yard was a postage stamp of patchy grass and mud, hemmed in by leaning fences. Beyond it, the alley yawned dark. Two black SUVs squatted there, engines running, headlights off. "This is kidnapping," I said, mostly to myself, as Rafe helped heave Dario down the back steps.
"No," Dario said.
"Kidnapping involves ransom. This is relocation." "Wow," I muttered. "You should write PR copy." Rafe opened the rear door of the closest SUV. "Get in," he told me. His tone was brisk, professional, like we were all just clocking in for another night shift. I hesitated with one foot on the running board, looking back once at the dim rectangle of my kitchen window. The yellowed curtain. The plant. The life I'd been so sure I could keep small and manageable. Then I climbed in. Dario slid in after me with Rafe's help, his breath hissing through his teeth as he settled. Luca shut the door, the sound solid and final. We rolled forward, tires splashing through the water still gushing from the broken hydrant. For a heartbeat, I saw my house framed in the back window, peeling paint, crooked steps, one upstairs light still on. Then we turned the corner, and it disappeared. No one spoke for the first few blocks. The quiet inside the SUV hummed, with unasked questions. Finally, I found my voice. "What do I call you?" I asked. "Dario? Mr. Romano? Capo? Your Majesty?" He cut me a sidelong look. "Dario is fine."
"Fine," I said. "Dario."
"You going to tell me why men with guns tried to kill you outside my house?" "Business disagreement," he said. "That's not an answer," I snapped. "It's the only one you're getting tonight," he replied. Anger flared through the fear. "Here's another question then. When do I get to go home?" His jaw tightened. "You don't." I stared at him. "Excuse me?" "Not that home," he said. "Not that street. Not for a while." "For how long?" My voice pitched up. "A week? A month? Until you decide your business disagreement is over?" His gaze met mine, unflinching. "You stepped into a line of fire that wasn't yours. I won't put you back in it, even if you beg." "I don't beg," I said through my teeth. His eyes flicked down to my hands, still wrapped in bloody gloves clutching my duffel. "I believe you," he said quietly. The car slowed, then turned onto a wider road. City lights smeared across the window, laundromats, shuttered bars, unfamiliar intersections. We passed County General. I saw the glow of the ER bay, the automatic doors sliding open for a gurney. My throat tightened. "I'm supposed to be there tomorrow night," I said. "Work." "You won't be," he said. His certainty made my stomach flip. "You can't just erase my life." "I can't erase the men who now have your name and address, either," he said. "I'm choosing which thing hurts less." "Easy for you," I shot back. "You have 20 men and bulletproof cars. I have student loans and one overflowing inbox." He shifted, winced. "If it were up to me, you'd never have known my name," he said. "But you do, which means there is no easy anymore." The SUV merged onto a highway. The city fell away by inches, replaced by low warehouses and then trees. My pulse dipped as the familiar skyline shrank in the rear window. "You keep saying I stepped into your world," I said, like I had a choice. "You pulled a bleeding stranger out of a car in the middle of the night and brought him into your house," he said. "That was your choice. The rest is response." "You make it sound so simple," I muttered. "It isn't," he said. "But some things are." He shifted again and sucked in a sharp breath. His hand pressed instinctively to his side, over the bandage. "Let me see," I said, reaching without thinking. He caught my wrist midair, gripped tight. "You got your hands on me once," he said. "You enjoyed it that much?" "Wow," I said. "You really are concussed." His mouth twitched. Then his fingers loosened. "Fine," he said. "But no hospitals." "I got that memo," I said. I peeled back the edge of the bandage as gently as I could in the jostling car. The gauze was wet, but not soaked through. "Bleeding slowing," I said. "If the bullet missed anything major, you might live long enough to irritate me for years." "Lucky you," he murmured. The words were dry. The look he gave me wasn't. Something hot and unwelcome curled low in my stomach. I swallowed it down. Headlights flared bright in the side mirror, jolting me back. A car slid into the lane behind us. Then another. Rafe's voice crackled through the intercom from the front. We picked up a tail. Dario's body went from wounded to predator in a blink. How many? He asked. 2, Rafe said. No plates we recognize yet. They merged as we hit the ramp. Albanians. Luca's voice, from the driver's seat. Maybe, Rafe said. Maybe someone else smelling blood. Dario's eyes met mine. You wanted to go home? He said softly. This is what's between you and that street now. Before I could answer, his burner phone vibrated in his pocket. He flipped it open, listened for 3 seconds, then snapped it shut. New plan, he said. We're not going straight to the house. Where then? Rafe asked. Where House 32, Dario said. And Rafe. Yeah, boss.
Call Miko, he said.
Tell him to sweep June's place top to bottom. If they were waiting for me at that corner, they might have left us a little present. My mouth went dry. Present.
Bug, he said.
Camera. Something that says you were never as invisible as you thought. By the time we reached the docks, my fear had settled into something colder. Sharper. The skyline had melted away behind us, replaced by rusted cranes and stacked shipping containers that loomed like sleeping giants in the sodium orange dark. The SUV's headlights swept over cracked concrete and puddles that reflected the sky like oil. Rafe's voice crackled over the intercom. They're still back there. 2 cars. Trying to look casual, failing. Let them follow, Dario said. His tone shifted, no longer talking to me, but to the world he commanded. Take the long way. 32's north entrance. My stomach dipped. You're bringing a tail to your safe place? I'm bringing them where I want them, he corrected. There's a difference. We turned between 2 looming warehouses, then another, until I was completely turned around. Finally, we slowed in front of a long, low building with faded lettering. Varela Shipping Company. Half the windows were broken. The other half were so dirty, they might as well have been. If I'd been alone, I would have assumed it was abandoned. Rafe killed the headlights and eased us into the shadow of the loading dock. The second SUV slid in behind us. Positions, Dario said quietly. No one fires unless they do. As if on cue, a phone vibrated somewhere under his jacket. He fished out a slim black device, glanced at the screen, then handed it to Rafe.
Line them up, he said.
We'll see if they want to talk or bleed. I really don't need to be here for this, I muttered.
You are here for this, he said.
Close your eyes if it helps.
It doesn't, I shot back.
Rafe slipped out of the SUV, shutting the door with a soft, solid click. Luca followed. I could see them in the side mirror, dark silhouettes melting into darker corners, guns low but ready. The 2 tail cars rolled into view a moment later, edging down the alley between warehouses. Their headlights swept past, then cut off almost in unison. For a breath, nothing moved. Then floodlights burst to life along the roofline of Warehouse 32, blinding white and sudden. The yard lit up like a stage. Men appeared from nowhere. Dario's men. On the dock, by the doors, behind pallets I would have sworn were just piles of junk. My heart climbed into my throat. Outside, doors on the tail cars flew open. 2 men, then 4, spilled out, squinting against the light. One of them lifted a hand to shield his eyes. The motion flashed the dull gleam of a gun. Drop it, Rafe's voice snapped across the concrete. He stepped into the open, gun trained steady. Hands where I can see them. Easy, amico. One of the men called back, trying for swagger and landing somewhere near shaky. We were just passing through. Then you won't mind leaving the way you came, Rafe said. Without your toys. Tension pulled tight over the scene like plastic wrap. No one fired. No one moved. Dario watched from beside me, his face carved from stone. Only the faint rise and fall of his chest betrayed the fact that he was still bleeding. This is stupid, I whispered. This is how people die in parking lots. His gaze didn't leave his men. People die in hospitals too, he said. Least here, I pick who. A figure jogged up to Rafe from one of the shadows, whispered in his ear. Rafe listened, then jerked his chin. They're small fry, Dario murmured, almost to himself. Runners. Not worth the bullet. Then let them go, I said. He glanced at me, something unreadable in his eyes. You're soft. I'm tired, I corrected, of cleaning up what guns don't finish. He considered that, then nodded once to Rafe through the glass. Moments later, the standoff dissolved. Guns lowered, tail cars reversed, engines whining, then backed out the way they'd come. My muscles sagged with relief. I didn't want to show. Sometimes you let the mice run, Dario said. So they lead you home. Can you not talk about people like vermin? I asked. Would you prefer assets? He countered. I would prefer human beings, I snapped. He didn't apologize. But he also didn't argue. That felt like something. The warehouse door rolled open with a bone-deep rumble. We pulled inside, into a cavernous space that smelled faintly of oil, dust, and something sterile. Rafe opened our door and leaned in. Truck's clear. Inside secured. We're good. About time, Dario muttered, trying to shift. He moved wrong. Pain flashed like lightning under his skin, sharp enough that he couldn't quite catch it this time. He sucked in a breath, jaw clenching. His hand flew to his side, fingers digging into the bandage. Hey, I said, instinct kicking in. Stop. Let us get you on a gurney or a table or whatever counts as horizontal in this place. Just need a minute, he ground out. Minutes are what people die in, I retorted. You tell me not to do hospitals, fine. But you don't get to bleed in an alley and call it a strategy. Rafe's gaze flicked between us, surprised. Then, to Dario, she's not wrong. Dario shot him a look that said 82, and then another wave of pain hit. His face went blank, too blank. I'd seen that look before. In trauma bays, right before the monitors went nuts. Out, I ordered. Now. Between the three of us, we got him into the warehouse, through a maze of crates and stacked pallets, into a side room that smelled strongly of antiseptic and old concrete. An improvised infirmary. Steel table. Overhead lamp. Cabinets full of supplies that would make a paramedic drool. Someone had turned a corner of this place into a rough clinic. You do this often? I asked, as Rafe eased Dario onto the table. Frequently enough, Rafe said. He hates real doctors. I snapped on fresh gloves. Real doctors save lives. Real doctors killed my brother, Dario said. The words dropped between us like a stone. I froze. What? He lay back, eyes fixed on the mottled ceiling. His voice went flatter, distance creeping in. When I was 19, he said, my older brother took 2 in the chest. Simple extraction. Clean shot, clean hospital run. Or it should have been. His gaze slid to me. The surgeon was on someone's payroll. Wrong dose in the drip. Took his heart, not the bullet. My breath caught. You're sure? I was there, he said. I watched his pupils blow while the monitor screamed. The rival family sent flowers. So sorry for your loss. Rafe's mouth was a hard line. We sent them a different kind of message after that. I didn't ask what kind. I could guess. So no hospitals, I said softly. No hospitals, he confirmed. Ever. I exhaled, anger and understanding nodding together. Fine, I said. But this? I gestured around us. This is a hospital with worse decor. You stocked it like one. Let me do my job. His eyes searched mine, weighing. Then he gave a slight nod. Do it, he said. I stepped closer, the world narrowing to the familiar triangle of patient wound supplies. Shirt, I said. He arched a brow. You could ask nicer. Don't bleed on it then, I snapped. Rafe. Rafe smothered a smirk and ripped the ruined dress shirt open the rest of the way. Buttons pinged off metal. Suddenly, there was a lot of bare, inked skin in front of me. I focused on the hole in it. The bullet had gone in low and slightly back. We needed to know where it had stopped. Do you have imaging? I asked. Portable X-ray? Ultrasound? Dario's mouth quirked. Not here. Of course not, I muttered. Why would the illegal Mafia infirmary have anything actually helpful?
June, he said. Look.
I did. Something dark and foreign gleamed just under the surface of the wound. Not deep. Wedged in muscle. Rafe, Dario said. The forceps. Rafe handed me a slender pair. You sure you want a nurse digging around in there? He asked. She's better than half the med students I've seen, Dario said. You saw me once, I said. Exactly, he replied. Heat rose in my cheeks. Stupid, at a time like this. Hold still, I said. If you pass out, I'm telling everyone you cried. His eyes flashed. You're enjoying this too much. Little bit, I admitted. I probed gently. He hissed, knuckles whitening on the table's edge, but didn't move. The bullet fragment slid free, with a sick little give. I dropped it onto a tray, with a metallic ping. Got you, I breathed. Dario let out a long, shaky exhale. See, I said. Didn't even scream. Wouldn't give you the satisfaction, he murmured, voice rougher now. I cleaned the wound as best I could with betadine and saline, then packed it and taped fresh gauze over. When I finally stepped back, my shoulders ached. My nerves felt frayed but steadier. You need rest, I said. And antibiotics. And maybe someone to knock you out for a few hours. I have whiskey, he said. And a couch in the office. Those are not the same, I snapped. Outside the room, a phone rang sharply. Rafe stepped out to answer, voice low. Dario's gaze followed him, tension creeping back into his jaw. You trust them, I said. Not a question. With my life, he said. I already did tonight. I hesitated, then asked the thing that had been gnawing at me since the SUV. Do you trust me? I asked. His eyes came back to me, sharp and unblinking. I trusted you when I let you cut into me, he said. When I let you see me like this. Bleeding and bossy? I said lightly. Human, he corrected. Something in my chest went weird.
Tight.
Before I could reply, Rafe reappeared in the doorway, phone still in hand, expression grim. Boss, he said. Nico swept June's place. My stomach clenched. What did he find? Rafe's gaze flicked to me, then back to Dario. Camera and the smoke detector, he said. Mic under the kitchen table. And he swallowed. For a man who'd just helped hold his boss down on a table, that tiny hitch scared me more than the blood had. And what? I whispered. Rafe held up the phone so we could both hear Nico's voice on speaker. Dario, Nico said, breathless in that way that meant he'd been moving. This wasn't just about you. We pulled a stash from under her bedroom floorboard. Photos.
Notes. Dates.
Of what? Dario asked, ice creeping into his tone. Her, Nico said. June. Going to work. Coming home. With her mother at the market. With a kid at the park. They've been watching her for months, boss. Long before tonight. The room tilted. My hand found the edge of the table and gripped it hard. Dario's eyes locked on mine, something dangerous and possessive flaring to life there. This isn't collateral damage anymore, he said softly. It never was, Nico replied. Whoever's moving against you picked her first. The realization slammed into me like another car at 2:07 a.m. I hadn't been unlucky. I'd thought I was a bystander. Turned out I'd been a project. They've been watching her for months, boss. Long before tonight. Nico's voice still crackled from Rafe's phone. The words sat in my chest like ice. Watching me for what? I asked. My voice sounded wrong in my own ears, too calm, like it belonged to a nurse doing discharge instructions, not a woman who'd just learned she was the subject of someone's serial killer's scrapbook. For leverage, Nico answered. For pressure. Maybe for fun. Whoever it is, they like to take their time. Dario's hand curled into a fist on the metal table. Burn it, he said. Every photo. Every note. I want nothing of her left in that house. Something twisted in my gut. My house, I said. My life. We'll salvage what we can, Rafe cut in. But that place is dirty, June. They turned her home into a hunting blind. Ball stung the back of my throat. Nico added, one more thing. Some of the notes mention County General. Your shift patterns. Days off. Hospital's supposed to be neutral, Rafe muttered. Not anymore, Dario said. Pull anyone we've got inside out.
Clean break.
No more eyes there until I say. I jerked. You have people at my hospital?
His gaze slid to me.
Not anymore. That is not the point, I snapped. It is exactly the point, he said. They didn't just pick any nurse, June. They picked one at County General, on my street, with a pattern they could memorize. So this is about you again, I said. Your war. He didn't deny it. It's about whoever thinks they can send messages through you, he said. They're wrong. Silence stretched, humming with things I wasn't ready to untangle. Finally, Dario pushed himself upright, shoulders tight. We're done here, he said. Nico, you're on point at Morales until I tell you to pull. If anyone comes back for that stash, I want to know who they are before they take a second step. Capito, Nico said. The line clicked dead. Dario slid off the table, legs a little unsteady. I moved on instinct, stepping in so he could catch his balance on my shoulder. His weight settled there for a second, heavier than I expected. Warmer, too. Where now? I asked. The house, he said. Rafe frowned. You sure that's smart? Bringing her straight there? You want to leave her in a warehouse on the docks? Dario shot back. With runners sniffing around and half the city looking for a weak spot? Rafe's mouth flattened.
No. Then we go home, Dario said.
His eyes went to me. You'll be safe there. Safe. The word had lost most of its meaning in the last few hours. But the way he said it, quiet, edged with something like a vow, lodged under my skin anyway. Dawn was bleeding into the sky when we turned off the highway. The city had fallen away behind us, replaced by wide stretches of dark trees and long stone walls older than anything on Morales Street. The SUV's headlights picked out iron gates ahead, their bars twisted into the shape of climbing wolves. Two men with rifles stood on either side. Cameras tracked us as we approached, tiny red eyes blinking awake. The gates swung inward without a sound. You live in a Gothic novel, I muttered. Only on the outside, Dario said. The Wi-Fi's decent. Despite myself, a snort escaped me. The drive wound through manicured grounds that would have made my landlord weep. A fountain gurgled quietly in the half-light. Marble wolves frozen mid-leap around a central figure I didn't recognize. The house itself rose at the top of the hill, stone and glass and power. Lights glowed in a few windows, golden against the blue-gray dawn. This isn't a house, I said. It's a fortress. That's the idea, he replied. Two more men waited under the portico. One opened my door before I could grab the handle. Signore, he said. His gaze flicked to me, lingering a hair too long. This is June, Dario said, sliding out with Rafe's help. She's under my protection. That means she's under all of yours. Nothing happens to her without my say. The man straightened. Capito. Heat crawled up my neck. The word sounded too much like a claim. I'm not a package, I muttered. No, Dario said. You're a priority. Inside, the air smelled like lemon oil and old wood. The foyer was all marble and high ceilings and portraits of people who probably never had to worry about rent. A woman appeared at the top of the sweeping staircase, hand resting on the polished rail. Dark hair threaded with silver, black dress, eyes sharp enough to cut. Dio mio, she breathed when she saw Dario. Again, Mama, he said, and in that single word his voice changed, softer at the edges, younger somehow. She swept down the stairs faster than I would have thought those elegant shoes could move. Her gaze flicked over his torn shirt, the bandage, the drying blood. Always bleeding in my house, she scolded in accented English, even as her hands were gentle on his face. You wanted to put me in the ground early? It's just a scratch, he said. She smacked his uninjured arm. Men always say this until they drop dead on the rug. Her eyes slid to me then, assessing. Not unkind. Not warm. And you, she asked. Who are you? June, I said, suddenly aware of my tangled hair, my thrift store jeans, the blood on my hoodie. I owe live on his street. I pulled him out of the car. Those keen eyes softened, just a fraction.
Then I owe you, she said.
Come. She hooked her arm through mine before I could process it and started down a side hall with the efficiency of someone who'd been running this place since before I was born. I glanced back over my shoulder. Dario was watching us, mouth curved in the faintest of smiles despite his obvious discomfort. Our gazes met. Something warm flickered there. Then the hallway turned, and he was gone. The guest room was bigger than my entire house. High ceilings, tall windows, a bed that looked like it could swallow me whole. A bathroom with more marble than County General's lobby. Dario's mother, who insisted I call her Signora Romano, not Maria, despite telling me to use her kitchen like it's yours, left me with a stack of towels, a robe, and a warning not to steal my son's shirts unless you plan on staying. I wasn't sure how to respond to that, so I didn't. The hot water in the shower tried to drown out the last 12 hours. It failed. I scrubbed off the grime and the blood, and some of the shaking, but not the images.
Car. Gun.
Warehouse. Photos under my floorboard. Dario's hand closing around my wrist. Now you can't leave. When I stepped back into the bedroom, hair damp, wrapped in the robe she'd given me, he was there. He stood by the window in a fresh shirt, sleeves rolled to his forearms, bandage peeking white against tan skin. The early light painted his profile in soft gold. You move quietly for a man your size, I said, heart giving an annoying little jump. Occupational hazard, he replied. I knocked. You didn't answer. I was showering. I deadpanned. His gaze drifted over me. Robe, bare legs, damp hair, then snapped back to my face. Heat prickled my skin. I see that, he said, voice a notch lower. I crossed my arms. Why are you in my guest room? Doctor's rounds, he said. You're my only patient. I rolled my eyes. Sit down, I said. Let me look at that bandage before you rupture something trying to be charming. He huffed a quiet laugh but obeyed, lowering himself onto the edge of the bed with a careful exhale. I perched beside him, close enough to smell the soap on his skin, the faint ghost of smoke that clung to him no matter how clean he tried to be. Shirt, I said again. This time, he didn't make a crack. He unbuttoned slowly, wincing only once, then let the fabric fall open. The gauze was mostly clean. A faint pink halo at the center, no fresh seepage. You heal fast, I said, relieved despite myself. Good genes, he replied. Stubborn organs. My fingers grazed the edge of the bandage. His breath caught, just a hitch, but I felt it. Thank you, he said quietly. For this. For not running when you saw the gun. You threatened to kill me if I called an ambulance, I reminded him. That narrowed my options. His mouth curved. Semantics. Stop saying that, I said. He turned his head then, really looking at me. No patient. No boss. Just a man who'd almost died on my street and dragged me into a storm. You're angry, he said. Yes. At me. Yes. At them. His jaw tightened. Yes. My throat thickened. At whoever looked at my life and saw handles. His eyes softened at that. I swear to you, he said, every word deliberate. Whoever put that stash under your floor, whoever wrote your name on their list, I will find them. And I will make sure they never speak your name again. The promise in his tone was terrifying. And, God help me, comforting. Because it's your street? I asked. Your territory? His gaze didn't waver. Because it's you. Heat crawled up my neck. That's a lot to pin on one bullet and a couch, I said. He leaned in, just enough that the air between us changed. You think this is about one night? He asked. About one cut and one crash? Isn't it? I whispered. No, he said softly. They picked you months ago. They've had their eyes on you for a long time. And you? The question slipped out before I could stop it. How long have you had your eyes on me? Something flickered in his expression. There and gone. Long enough to know you always take Morales instead of ninth after late shifts, he said. Long enough to know you give your patients your last granola bar if the vending machine's broken. My breath stalled. You've been watching me? I said. Protecting the street, he corrected. You were on it. The implications curled in my gut, hot and complicated. I should have pushed him away. I should have demanded tapes, explanations, boundaries. Instead, I reached up and touched the scar at his temple, the one I hadn't let myself examine before. His eyes darkened.
June, he said.
Warning.
Plea.
I wasn't sure. Tell me to stop, I whispered. He didn't. He closed the distance instead, his mouth finding mine with a certainty that stole my breath. The kiss was nothing like it should have been, no hesitation, no polite testing. It was heat and demand and a question I didn't want to answer and already had. My fingers curled into his shirt. His hand slid to the back of my neck, thumb tracing the line of my jaw, careful even in the hunger. Pain must have tugged at his side because he broke away with a hiss, forehead dropping to mine, breath harsh. This is a bad idea, I said, voice shaking. The worst, he agreed. Neither of us moved. A sharp knock shattered the moment. Rafe's voice came through the door, taut.
Boss.
We got something from Miko. About the stash. You need to see it. Dario's hand tightened briefly on my thigh, anchoring. We're not done, he murmured. Then he pulled away, buttoning his shirt with quick, deft fingers, and went to the door. Rafe stood there, face grim, a manila folder in his hand. He held it out. Photos from under her floor, he said. And this. He lifted a single sheet free and passed it to Dario. Dario's eyes scanned it. His jaw turned to stone. What is it? I asked. He looked up at me, expression unreadable for the first time since I'd met him. It's a name, he said quietly. The one who ordered them to watch you. He turned the page so I could see. I stared at the neat black letters, my stomach dropping through the floor.
It wasn't a rival family.
It wasn't some faceless stranger. The letters on the page didn't make sense at first. They were too ordinary, too neat. The kind of name you saw typed at the top of discharge summaries and prescription pads, not scrawled under surveillance photos pulled from under someone's floor. Dr. Gabriel Stein. My tongue stuck to the roof of my mouth.
No, I said.
It came out a whisper. That's wrong. That's not. Dario watched me, the paper held between two fingers like it might bite. You know him, he said. Not a question. He's my attending, I heard myself say. On nights. Trauma. The words jammed. He's good. A flash of memory. Dr. Stein leaning over a gurney, hands steady inside a chest cavity, voice calm while alarm screamed. Dr. Stein's hand on my shoulder after my first patient coded, his rough, go get coffee, Herrera. You did all you could. He's been at county for 20 years, I managed. He trained half the ER. He stayed late to sit with my mom when she broke her hip. He brings donuts on Fridays. Rafe made a quiet, disbelieving sound. Yeah, he muttered. Real saint. I rounded on him. You don't know him. We've heard the name, Rafe said. Different context. My gaze snapped back to Dario. Context how?
His jaw flexed.
He was scrubbed in when my brother died. The floor dropped out from under me. You said the surgeon was on someone's payroll, I whispered. You meant.
I meant him, Dario said.
Dr. Gabriel Stein. The man whose hands were inside my brother when his heart stopped for no medical reason. No, I shook my head hard enough to make my damp hair stick to my cheeks. If he'd done something wrong, there'd be an investigation. Board review. Lawsuits. You think we didn't try? His voice went low, dangerous. The report said, adverse reaction. Wrong dose. Unfortunate complication. 30-year veteran. Clean record. His mouth twisted. Cleaner than the drug money that bought his second house. My stomach churned. You don't know it was him, I said. An anesthesiologist, a nurse. It could have been any. He looked me in the eye when I asked what happened. Dario cut in, eyes flat. And he lied, June. I know the sound. Silence pressed in. Rafe shifted his weight, but didn't speak. I looked back at the paper. At the tidy black letters of a name I'd trusted at 3 a.m. more times than I could count. Why is he ordering people to watch me? I said. What does he want? Leverage, Rafe said. If Stein's still owned by the same people who paid to kill Adriano, they know exactly who Dario is to this neighborhood. Who you are. Dario's fingers tightened on the page, the paper crinkling. They learned from last time, he said quietly. They know I don't walk into hospitals anymore. So they brought the hospital to my street. Something cold settled in my chest. You're saying the same man who might have murdered your brother has been watching me clock in and out for months? And taking notes about your family, Rafe added. Your mother. The kid in those park photos. My jaw clenched. That's my cousin, I said. He's 13. Rafe held up his hands, palms out. Point stands. Anger surged up so fast it made me dizzy. If you knew Dr. Stein was dirty, I said, turning back to Dario. Why didn't you say something? Warn someone? Call the board, the cops, the news. Because men who buy surgeons buy investigations, he snapped. You think an ethics committee is going to take a statement from a Romano over a decorated doctor? So, you just let him keep operating? My voice rose. Let him keep cutting into people while you watched from your fancy house. His eyes flashed. You think I haven't taken anything from him? What? I demanded. What balance is that? Taking his parking spot. We choked one of his income streams, Rafe said quietly when Dario didn't answer. People he patched up for cash stopped coming. Word spreads. Men like him notice when the envelopes get lighter. So he needed a new client, I said slowly. New leverage. And someone he could hurt without stepping into my world, Dario finished. You. Heat pricked behind my eyes. I blinked hard. And you, I said, throat tight. How long have you had me on your list? Surveillance? Files? You knew my name from my badge, sure. But you knew my route home. My shifts. You said you'd been protecting the street. His jaw clenched. Months, he said. Roughly. Months, I repeated. Months you've had eyes on me, and didn't think to mention it when you broke into my living room covered in blood. I didn't break in, he said. I fell in. You opened the door. Don't, I snapped. Don't twist this. You watched me, too. Maybe not to hurt me, but you did it without asking. How is that different? It's different in intent, he said. Not effect. I know. The admission knocked something off balance inside me. I don't like being anyone's project, I said. Yours. Stein's. Whoever else has my face on their wall. You're not a project, he said, voice roughening. You're a problem I didn't know I had until tonight. That's not better, I muttered. He blew out a breath, scrubbed a hand over his face. You're right to be angry, he said finally. If I told you a week ago, by the way, we have cameras on your corner because men like Stein use nurses as bargaining chips, you would have moved. Maybe to a worse street. Maybe closer to his reach. So, your solution was to let both of you watch me? I said. No, he said. My solution is now. He held up the page between us, Dr. Stein's name a black scar across white. This, he said, changes everything. It changes nothing, I shot back. I still can't go home. I still can't go to work. I'm still stuck in your house because two sets of monsters decided I'm useful. His eyes hardened. It changes my target, he said. And my methods. A thread of fear wove through my anger. What does that mean? I asked carefully. He killed my brother, Dario said. He watched you like a lab rat. He works in a place I can't touch with guns and walk away clean. So I have to use something scarier. My stomach dropped. What?
Truth, he said.
In the one place he believes himself untouchable. I shook my head.
No.
Whatever you're thinking, no. His gaze cut back to me. You don't even know the plan. I know it involves my hospital, I said. And him.
And you.
That's enough. It involves you, he said evenly. Or rather, your absence. We make him feel the loss of his leverage. We make him fear I'll come for him in his sanctuary. Then we offer him a way out. He talks, he walks. He doesn't. His hand closed slowly into a fist. You can't just walk into County General and execute my attending, I said, horrified. I don't need to, he said. Men like Stein kill themselves the moment someone looks behind their curtain. My pulse skittered. You're talking in riddles, I said. Be straight with me, Dario. For once. I will go to him, he said. On neutral ground. He will see my face and know his ghosts are back. He will understand that every incision he's made with dirty hands has a weight. And in that moment, he will tell me who he's working for now. Or he will learn what it feels like to be the one strapped to the table. The picture his words painted made my skin crawl. But beneath the horror, another truth pulsed. He was doing this for me. Because of me. Because of us. You're going to use your own trauma to scare him, I said slowly. To make him talk.
I'm going to use his, Dario said.
Guilt is a sharper knife than any I carry. And me? I asked. Where do I fit in this little morality play? His gaze softened, fractionally. You're the reason I care enough to risk stepping back into that building, he said. Without you, I'd just burn his house and call it even. The admission stole my breath. You don't have to come, he added, to the meet. I'd rather you didn't. His mouth twisted. But if I don't tell you, if I sneak out, you'll never trust me again. He wasn't wrong. You're telling me you're going to confront the man who kills on the table, I said slowly, in my hospital, about the people watching me. And you expect me to what? Sit here and knit. His eyes glinted. You knit. That is not the point, I snapped. I expect you to decide, he said. Do you want distance? Or do you want to look him in the eye when he explains why your life was a line item? The idea of seeing Dr. Stein's face when he realized we knew made me feel sick. And vindicated. I thought you said no hospitals, I whispered.
For me, he said.
Not for justice. Anger and fear and something darker twisted together. If I do this, I said, if I go with you, there's no going back to normal. There is no normal, he said softly. Not anymore. He stepped closer, close enough that I could see my reflection in his eyes. Small, scared, furious.
Think about it, he said.
Today you rest. Tonight we move. And tomorrow... He let the word hang there. Heavy. Electric.